Hi, I'm Kamali, and this is our Newsfeed special on the climate crisis. And top of our newsfeed, our planet. It's all we're going to talk about today. We'll look at the Earth we inhabit and ask what's gone wrong, what's going wrong, and what, if anything, we can do as individuals to reduce our impact on the environment. We'll also ask if decision makers and politicians and big businesses are listening to people's pleas. First up is this.
There is no time to lose. This is the battle of our lives. We must win, and we can.
But it's a battle humanity seems to be losing. We've been given stark warning after stark warning, telling us the perilous state the planet is in, and that it's time to act. But how did things get so bad? Rapid industrialization in the late 19th and early 20th century relied on fossil fuels: oil, gas, and coal. People mined and chopped and burned their way around the earth, advancing us as a species to the detriment of the natural world. We built up a massive debt as we borrowed against the Earth's resources. Now that bill is due. Here are the facts as laid out by the United Nations. The globe has warmed by 0.85 degrees centigrade between 1880 and 2012. Sea levels have risen by 19 centimeters between the years 1901 and 2010. There have been more extreme weather events, and they are happening more frequently, and there is a rapid and accelerating decline in the planet's biodiversity. The UN says we have 12 years to change our ways and save the planet for future generations, because those generations will ask us in the years and decades that come, what did you do in the battle for our lives? Okay, let's take a look at some of the new science, some of the new things we've learned about the threat to our planet recently. We'll look at the land, the sea, and the air. And we know that some people like to dispute the science, so with each of these next stories, we'll have the source of the data on the screen for you, and spoiler alert, the research findings are all massively depressing. Well, first the land. We're destroying plant species at a terrifying rate. Since 1750, more than 570 plants have gone extinct, and that number is just the ones we know about. The planet is beautifully abundant and varied in terms of flora, and humanity's impact on it has changed that variety and abundance irreversibly. The real number of planets that have gone from the Earth forever is probably far higher. The seas are warming at an alarming and again seemingly unstoppable rate, and that means there will be a huge reduction in the amount of marine life out there. A recent study found that 17% of it will be lost. And carbon emissions rose sharply last year. They swung up 2%, which may sound small, but remember, to save the planet, the ideal would be for us to have zero carbon emissions. And scarily, the fact that the climate is heating up so much has forced us into a vicious circle. Scientists say that extreme weather, really cold or really hot days, are driving up energy demand to power heating or cooling systems, so we burn more fossil fuels and spew more carbon into the atmosphere, making that extreme weather more and more common. Okay, well that gives you a kind of broad overview of the problems. Let's zoom in now and take a look at a problem in more depth. We go to India, a country where the mega metropolises generate 62 million tonnes of waste each year, and that's rising by the second. It's projected to increase to 165 million tonnes by 2030. And the problem is most acute in the capital. Here's Nia.
You're looking at India's largest garbage mountain. I'm at the Ghazipur landfill on the outskirts of New Delhi. At least 2,000 tons of garbage is disposed of here every day. And this mountain is a very graphic reminder of how big Delhi's waste disposal problem really is. The landfill is as big as 40 football pitches put together. It reached its maximum capacity 17 years ago, but it is still being used. A lack of space has meant it's growing taller by 10 meters every year. It's already 65 meters high, and by next year, this dump will possibly be taller than the Taj Mahal. India's Supreme Court has already warned that unless something is done urgently to fix this problem, we may need to install red lights on top of this dump to warn aircraft. But the bigger problem on the ground is the health hazard that this landfill poses. Last year, a section of this hill collapsed because of heavy rain, killing 2 people. Dumping was banned temporarily but resumed soon after. Authorities say, where else will Delhi's garbage go? There is no alternative, they claim. People who live close by say the stench makes it impossible to breathe. Locals also complain of respiratory and stomach ailments because of the polluted air from here. Not just that, this untreated garbage is also polluting Delhi's groundwater. While India has promised to end the consumption of single-use plastic by 2022, revamping its waste disposal system is going to be an uphill task.
And if you were looking closely at the pictures in Nia's piece, you would have seen a particular item which has become kind of emblematic of the problem we're dealing with when dealing with waste, the plastic bag. Now, I don't know about you, but I feel pretty guilty if I'm forced to take a plastic bag when I go to the store. And in Canada, they are playing on that. Now, many countries have banned them outright or charged for them, but this one store in Vancouver has gone a step further. If a customer wants one, they get one which has something embarrassing printed on it, as you can see. Not a bad idea. Now, take a look at this from Esra.
The plastic bag had its heyday in the 1970s. They were marketed as a cheaper, stronger alternative to paper bags. And they were everywhere. But since then, plastic bags have started to pile up. Now, there are about 8 million tonnes of them just in our oceans. Each bag weighs less than a gram. Think about that. It's a huge problem. Turtles and other sea creatures mistake them for food, which can choke them or block their stomachs. And they smother coral reefs. But that's just the damage we can see. Plastic bags can take more than 500 years to degrade. And as they do, they release tiny pieces of degraded plastic, called microplastics. These are consumed by smaller animals in the ocean when they're eaten by bigger animals, including humans. Plastic becomes part of the food chain. So maybe paper bags were the better option all along. You see, it's not that simple. Paper bags are generally biodegradable, so they break down more easily, which means they don't build up in the oceans and other ecosystems like plastic bags. But according to the UK's Environment Agency, the problem is paper bags take 4 times as much energy to manufacture as plastic ones. They're heavier too, which means transporting them takes more energy. So you need to use a paper bag at least 3 times for it to equate to a single use of a plastic bag. And let's not forget, millions of trees have to be cut down every year to make paper bags. So we know paper bags hurt the trees and plastic bags hurt the fishies. What's the alternative? Reusable bags are the way forward, provided you hold onto them and use them often. You need to use a cotton bag at least 131 times to ensure it's worth its environmental impact. But to do that, you need to remember to take it with you when you go to the store.
And it is increasingly clear that if we're going to be able to change the course of the planet, we all have to take part. Here's a look at how some people and some governments are trying to help.
We ask the grown-ups, please give us a future. Is that really too much to ask?
A call for action by teenage activist Greta Thunberg. In May, students and young environmentalists from across the world heeded her call, often cutting class to call on their governments to address the climate crisis. It didn't stop there. Activists are moving towards more direct action, like people from the environmental group Extinction Rebellion, who staged a die-in inside the European Commission in Brussels. Even former California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger is having a go.
I believe that we can create a prosperous and clean energy future without fossil fuels choking us to death.
And pressure seems to be working. Belgium, Denmark, France, the Netherlands, Portugal, Spain and Sweden have all asked the EU to set 2050 as a target for being carbon neutral. In the US, the climate crisis is expected to be one of the major issues in next year's presidential debate. China, the host of World Environment Day, says it's managed to reduce sulfur dioxide in Beijing by 70% and particle pollution by 36% in just 4 years. And it isn't just the big countries. Costa Rica says it generates 98% of its energy from renewables. It seems the risk of doing nothing now far outweighs the effort it takes to act.
And now we come closer to home, reducing that carbon footprint one story at a time, and meet a woman here in Istanbul who has a plan for living with minimal environmental impact.
Hello. Yes, I am. Let's go. My name is Hale Acunaydın. I'm 35 years old. I'm married with 2 children, 2 boys. And I started minimalism like 10 years ago, almost 10 years ago, while I was just started working. I was a terrible, not a shopaholic, but I did shop without thinking. Then I looked at my wardrobe. It was full of clothes. But as the cliche goes, I had nothing to wear for work. Then one day, when I was searching through the internet, came across the word declutter, and it just mesmerized me. It was like the solution came to me. I started reading about it, and then I learned the minimalism. As I read about it, minimalism really got into my skin, and I started practicing it. Anyone can be a minimalist. It's an easy thing. People think of minimalism like an exile lifestyle. It's not. And after I became a minimalist, I understand the impact of all the shopping and consuming on the environment. Then I searched zero waste living. I came across Lauren Singer. She showed in a TEDx teen conference a jar of full of her trash that she collected just in 1 year. I saw that girl and I thought, if she can do it, why not we can do it? The name zero really scares people. They think it's black or white, but actually it's really gray. It's a gray area. Small steps really matters, and I want to show you what I carry in my daily life so you can see how easy it is, and maybe you can implement it to your daily life. This is my daily bag. And first of all, I always carry my coffee mug because I drink a lot of coffee. This is my water bottle. I use it to not use plastic bottles. This is my metal straw. I use it not to use plastic straws. You can prepare your snacks rather than buying packaged goods. And I want to show my bag because it says on it, I reduced my trash, did you? On my Instagram account, I started a movement called Kahvem Termosta, my coffee to go in my thermomug. I wanted to create awareness among people who are consuming lots of coffee in their daily lives. I was one of them. Then I learned about the plastic cover inside them, and I understood the importance of carrying it could be your mug, it could be your glass jar or thermomug with you. With Kahvem Termosta, we invite coffee shops to give a small discount, like a gesture, to the people who carry their own mug or thermomug with them. The movement is embraced within the coffee shops and within the workers and students a lot. People started carrying their own bottles with them. It's great because every day they are sharing their pictures with the hashtag Kahvem Termosta, and they're sending it to me, and I collect them under Kahvem Termosta account for not to bother people every day on my other account with all the paper cup and the thermomug pictures. Now my second target is to have a supportive coffee shop in all the cities in Turkey. I hope we reach it very soon. Now it's coffee time. Don't forget, we don't need a handful of people who are doing it perfectly, but we need millions of it who are doing it imperfectly. Bye.
that will do. From the Newsfeed team, reach out to me with your questions, comments, complaints and suggestions. You'll find me at Kamali Melbourne. You'll find us 24/7 on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to our channel. Follow me on Twitter. Follow, subscribe and add. See you again very soon.